Great. Anastasia, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too, Sean. Thank you for having me on this. And I'm really happy about what you're doing here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited because I think you're probably my first guest who I've never met before in person. So I don't really know much about you. For background context for people listening, my dad recommended you and share the contact. So I'm going into this cold, and that makes me even more excited because I'm just excited to learn.
That's incredible. Yeah, and that's very brave of you. And I figured it would be something like that. So I'm usually pretty awkward at these kind of things. So tonight will probably be no different. But hey, whatever. I'm up for learning and sharing. And yeah, your dad told me about what you're doing here with the podcast and a little bit about your journey. And I would, love to help out any way I can. So.
Yeah, and I apologize already for you and for listeners. I am coming down with something, and if I sneeze, I'm gonna try and be on mute if if I feel it coming. But if I'm on mute and you see me reacting harshly, it's not to anything you said. It's because I'm sneezing because it's going around some respiratory stuff. It's been a little difficult lately to get through these days.
I'm going to think that every time I say something and somebody on a video has like a funny, cringy face, I'm just going to think that they're muting themselves and sneezing.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Well, Anastasia, thank you for coming on. And I'd love to learn about your story and how you got here.
Okay. So, yeah, it's a pretty interesting story from my point of view, anyway. It's a story about breast cancer. It's one of the more common cancers that happens for women, especially, but men can also have a diagnosis of breast cancer. Um, in my family, we have a history of breast cancer. My grandmother on my mother's side, I first knew about her diagnosis when she was 80, but apparently she had a diagnosis earlier in her 60s. And I also learned that my mom had a small DISC tumor located in her breast in her late 60s as well. Knowing a little bit about this, and also just really knowing just general knowledge about breast cancer being so prevalent in our society, I took whatever preventative measures I could all my life to not, hear those words, "You have breast cancer." For example, from a teenager on, I tried to avoid, certain deodorants with aluminum. I heard that, that could possibly cause breast cancer. I also was, when I had my children, I was a member of a association. It's around the world called La Leche League. That means like the milk league. It's for breastfeeding women. And it's known that if you breastfeed your child, there is a preventative measure of breast cancer in doing that. So for many reasons, I wanted to breastfeed my kids. One of them was, simply that I thought it would be preventative for me. So lo and behold, it was January of 2020. And as you recall, the world was about to go into pandemic shutdown. And I had gone for my annual mammogram. I was really good at keeping up with those in October. And in October, everything came back normal. I have what they call dense breast tissue, but I'm not a large chested woman. So it seemed like, well, we would be able to find something if anything was there. And so October, I had my, of 2019, I had my mammogram. And in January of 2020, I was lying in bed one evening, and for really no reason at all that I could recollect, I just touched myself on my right side. And my hand went right to something that wasn't normal feeling. And I thought, well, this was the spot where years ago when I had younger children and I had breastfed, that breast had irritated me a bit. And so I thought, I'm going to just wait maybe 24 hours because it felt kind of like a solid lump and it didn't hurt or anything. But I thought it could be just something from, that side being kind of more sensitive. So I said, I'm going to wait 24 hours and see if this, whatever it is, goes away. And I put it out of my mind. And then sure enough, and 24 hours later, I felt again and it was still there. And it just something in my head told me I need to get this checked out. So I, the next day, called my doctor, had an appointment on Friday to come in and do an ultrasound with my doctor's nurse practitioner. And she felt that was something there that I needed to get looked into a little bit more. So they sent me right over to the breast center where they did some imaging themselves with an ultrasound. And it was about, I remember, like 3:30 on a Friday afternoon. And they came in and said, this is, we can't tell for sure. We want to do a biopsy. But unfortunately, it's 3:30 on a Friday. So you're going to have to wait over the weekend and come in first thing Monday morning because it just didn't look right. So I waited over the weekend, but something in my head told me, yeah, this is probably real. Like something's really happening. So I went in for my biopsy, and sure enough, the next day, Tuesday, it was January, I believe, 28th, I got the diagnosis. And so that started my cancer journey. And for the whole pandemic, I was 45 years old at the time. And I was told that because I was so young and with my family, it had started happening with them later in life in their 60s. And they couldn't find any genetic cause for it. So they decided to, like what I say, throw the book at me with all the treatments. I did a lumpectomy. I had chemotherapy for that whole year. During the first year, everybody was in pandemic. I was home. Everybody was home. And I ended up doing radiation and had a good outcome. But I want to say a couple things. And that was always, I had a sense of humor about it in that I told people, hey, if you're ever going to get breast cancer, do it during a pandemic because nothing else is going on in the world and you can just focus on your health and getting well. And that's exactly what I did. Everybody was at home. So there wasn't really anything I was missing. And I slept a lot and I continued to work from home. And I think that attributed to the really good outcome that I had. The breast cancer, the first time that I had it was what they call a HER2 positive breast cancer. And that is positive for progesterone, estrogen, and the human growth factor hormone. They told me also that this used to be one of the most aggressive types of breast cancer, but around 30 years ago or so, medical research had come up with two drugs, Herceptin and Perjeta, and those two drugs essentially can block the HER2 positive tumor from growing anymore. So I went through that treatment. And by the time I had my lumpectomy, it was July of 2020. They went in and the tumor that had started off, honestly, as 2.5 centimeters, about the size of a strawberry, was gone. Then they did the lumpectomy. They could not find any tumor at all. There had been evidence of it in my lymph nodes. There was one lymph node showing cancer, but they removed 6 sentinel lymph nodes, and none of those had cancer as well. So the Herceptin and Perjeta really did a good job and worked well. So I put it, I got through that year. I healed and got back to normal. And just like everybody else, I finally got my vaccine, so I could go out of the house and, enjoy life a little bit more. When, you're going through chemo, your immune system's compromised. And so definitely during the pandemic, you don't want to go anywhere or do anything. So I was happy to get back to life. And just this past July was the 5-year mark of being cancer-free. And Sean, as you know, like that's pretty big accomplishment. Usually when you get to 5 years, your doctors can safely say, we think that you're good, we'll always, monitor you, but the chances of it coming back are pretty low. So I got to July of this year, and on July 2nd, I couldn't wait. And I posted on my Facebook group, 5 years cancer-free. I was so excited. And I got a ton of likes on that post, and I was just happy. And I was, far behind me in my rearview mirror, and I never really thought about it much after that. I thought, this is good. I'm going to be fine. I'm healthy otherwise. So, and I go for my annual mammograms, and this time it was also in July. So this past July, on July 30th, I went for my mammogram, and my new breast imaging doctor, she called me back, and she said, "Hey, we see something. It's on the other side. It's very, very tiny, and I'm not, I'm not sure we want to just take another look." So I think it was August 10th. No, it was August 8th or somewhere early first week of August. I came in again to do another mammogram and then the ultrasound. And this doctor pulled me into her office and said, I haven't confirmed it yet. We need to do a biopsy, but from my, expertise in looking at these images, I think your breasts are trying to kill you, is what she said. And you should probably think about getting a double mastectomy. So I was floored, totally floored. I had, just weeks ago passed my 5-year mark, and now I'm getting a second diagnosis. So I took that information from that, a consultation with my doctor, and sat with it for, a good 10 minutes, just let every emotion that needed to come through me. While I was driving home, I didn't have the biopsy even then, but I just knew something, something's happening. And I cried, on my way home. But then that was it. Really, it was like I let my tears out a couple of minutes, and then I faced what I needed to do. And kind of making a long story short, because of my experience in 2020, and I had all that time to myself and to research breast cancer and what it is. I was reading medical journals, and I was, really learning about your food and your mind-body health connection. I kind of was prepared for, whatever it was going to be. So August 10th, she did the biopsy. This time it was on the left side. It was, again, very small. So the biopsy, it was difficult because she was saying it was like 1 millimeter. And then she called me back on the 11th and said, unfortunately, it's positive. It's a cancer. We're not sure what type. We'll probably know tomorrow. And then she called me the next day and said it was a triple negative breast cancer. So it's a secondary type of cancer. The first one was very much treatable with Herceptin and Perjeta. Unfortunately, triple negative is a type of breast cancer you may know. I don't know what you know already, Sean, but it's one that is the most difficult to treat. It doesn't have any of those hormone receptors to it, and so it doesn't respond well to a lot of drugs that we have. They can use chemo and surgery, and they try some other immunotherapies, but typically this is the one that is just the hardest, and you don't want to get that diagnosis. So knowing it was really early, and after the biopsy, she said, "Oh, it looks like it's about 3 millimeters." So it was like the news was getting worse and worse each day, from 1 millimeter to 3 and triple negative. So each day I got more and more, prepared mentally to do this radical surgery of having my breast tissue removed. And I just put my head around that. I got my team assembled pretty quickly, again, because of like all of my past history of cancer. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew how to advocate for myself. I knew how to say no to things. Like, for example, my first oncologist, this time, I had to let him go because the team wasn't doing what I really felt was necessary for me to get this done quickly, which was they were trying to schedule an MRI for me in Alabama here. And this was August, and they said, "We can get you an MRI in October." And I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. Try again. And they tried again, and they said, "Okay, well, we got you one, but it's late September." And I was still like, we gotta work on this. So I had a second oncologist in mind that had helped me the first time around, and I went to him and did a consultation, talked to my surgeon, and we decided because I don't want really, I was really ready mentally to do the double mastectomy. They said, "We don't need an MRI. Why don't we just get this surgery scheduled as soon as we can?" So I had one vacation that I had already. It wasn't really a vacation. It was like a work thing, but I was traveling to Orlando, and had I not already had that in place, I would have had it even earlier, but that trip was in place. So I had them wait until September 2nd. So it was really less than a month from the diagnosis to getting the surgery. I jumped in on it and had the double mastectomy done. It took about it was about a 4-hour procedure because I chose to have reconstruction along with the mastectomy. So it was 2 surgeons. And I woke up from that really feeling, I'm kind of an oddball because people have said, like, I've come through this really well, but I woke up from that and my whole attitude, Sean, has just been one of gratitude, like total gratitude for every step of the way, for having found it early, for having the people in place that I have. I had so many people in the community just step up to my side and offer to take care of, household needs for me. I had meals coming to me for like the next 3 weeks. My boyfriend, he got permission to take time off to work from my home instead of in the office. So he was here with me, just helping me every day, because the first couple of weeks, you really are pretty helpless. So, I woke up from surgery just grateful. I think one thing they numb you up pretty good, during these surgeries, and that numbing medication lasts for about 2 days, maybe 3 days. So I didn't really feel a lot of pain at the beginning, and my boyfriend told me to like take it easy because he reminded me, like, you probably aren't feeling stuff that you're doing to yourself. So but I mostly just kind of stayed still and let my body heal. And a couple of days after the surgery, they're on the right side. So I'll tell you a little bit more. Because on the right side, I had cancer before, and that was where we did radiation in the past. When your breast tissue and skin has been radiated, it's a little more difficult for it to heal subsequently from surgery. So we initially thought we could go straight from in the surgery straight to implants, like for the reconstruction, and just have it all done in one surgery. And that was what I was hoping for. But unfortunately, that didn't work out. And when I woke up, I had what's called expanders, because the plastic surgeon felt like that skin on the right side especially really needed just extra care and time to heal. So the expanders are filled with air instead of any sort of weight silicone or saline solution. So it could heal a little bit better. So after about 3 days after my surgery and the numbing medication wore off, I started feeling a tiny burn, like a really hot burn on the right side where the incision was. And it would only last like 10 seconds or so. But it happened about 3 or 4 times. It was pretty intense. And I am wrapped in bandages, and I don't know, like what's going on underneath. We're not supposed to remove them for a couple weeks. So I would just take my, pain medication and sleep. And after 2 weeks, we took the bandages off and things looked relatively normal. The right side looked like it was taking a little bit longer to heal. So we gave it another week and came back in and had another exam. And the surgeon said, yeah, I don't think that the right side is healing like I wanted it to. I had done, there's probably a lot of detail, but I did a nipple sparing surgery so I could, kind of preserve as much of my normal structure as possible. And that side on the right side, it just wasn't taking hold. So we had to do a second surgery on September 29th. And I had that right side, the nipple removed. And there's a lot of little complications with that too. But again, I'm very grateful. I was, had a lot of thoughts about that. And mostly I was like, well, could I have done anything to save it? Like maybe I moved incorrectly, or maybe, I tore something when I shouldn't have, or maybe I was too active. But you can't let those things get into your head. So I just, just went forward with the day ahead of me and what I had ahead of me, and thinking, okay, I went through this second surgery, had the nipple removed, wrapped in bandages again, you have to have drains put in you, to kind of help with the fluid. And so I had to have another drain put on me for 3 weeks. And just kind of set me back a little bit. It really, like my mood after that kind of went a little bit down after that second surgery. Not because the surgery itself, it was a very cosmetic type of surgery, but my body was just worn out, I think. And my energy got zapped, and I had gone from the first surgery. I feel like I had regained like 85% of my energy. And then I had to have that second one. And I went back down to like 70 and was just down for a few weeks with that drain in me. But as soon as I took the drain out and we took the bandages off, my energy really started bouncing back. I also thought, one more thing I want to tell you is, and then I'll let you ask me a lot of questions, but when they took the bandages off me after I had the right nipple removed, I didn't look at myself. I really couldn't look at myself while I was at the doctor's. I just emotionally, I just didn't know how I was going to react. So I just looked away. I averted my eyes. And I drove home, and I had some time alone in the bathroom. And I finally took everything off again and take a look at myself thinking like, I don't know what I'm going to think. Do I feel like Frankenstein? Like what's going on? But honestly, it was so powerful when I looked at myself and I saw these scars on me, and I saw, just thinking of all the things, like I had no idea this was going to happen again this year, and it took about 2 months of my life away from me in 2025. And so I just looked in the mirror, and my feeling was like of overwhelming love for myself. I just saw like how brave I had been and how I had just been, letting things happen as they needed to. And I saw those scars as, kind of very beautiful. Honestly, I thought I looked beautiful, and just knowing where I had come from and where what all has happened, that it was, it's something I look at now, and I don't feel any shame at all. I just feel so much gratitude and love, and I want to share, the story that I have with as many people as possible, because it can be really frightening. And if you don't know a lot, if you've never had that, a diagnosis of cancer before, I mean, every story is different. And they always say like your attitude really determines a lot about how you're going to heal. And I turned my life, I'm a person of faith. And during this whole thing, it just, every moment, every day, I just had trust that God loves me, and whatever is happening to my body, it's meant for me. It's meant to teach me, and it's meant to really heal me, heal my soul. So I just wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't wish what I had on anybody, not my worst enemy, but I wouldn't trade my experience for anything either. So that was a lot. You asked just one question. I could talk about it for a while. But
I appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable and sharing your story.
yeah, thank you.
There were two things, really three things that really stood out to me. The first was just seeing you on camera, and behind you lots of books that you like to read and you learn, and that's sort of the context for something that jumped out on me. You mentioned when you were diagnosed that you took time to react alone with yourself, with the doctor, and then eventually in the car. Was that something natural, or had you learned that prior?
I'm learning. I'm a lifelong student.
I
So
love that.
yeah, I've been, actually, I'm 51 now, and I would say, especially the last 5 years of my life have been one of deep understanding of myself and of allowing and of like this radical acceptance. And in that, I have learned to recognize emotions and honor them, and as they're rising up inside of me, and knowing I'm befriending myself. For the longest time, I just dated myself. Like I really spent some time just, I mean, I may sound selfish, but it's really not a very selfish thing at all, because it helps you to be a better person for everybody around you. So I had spent a lot of time, from the first diagnosis up until now, learning a lot about myself, learning about, how maybe emotions from the past could have been, causing stress in my body. And so, no, it wasn't a natural thing. It was something that I've developed and moved into. Maybe as you mature, you develop better strategies. But so one of the things that I do for a living is I do team dynamics and leadership development. So we do a lot of personality assessments, and you get a lot of time with these assessments to learn about your own personality and style. And one thing I like to teach a lot is that, we have no control over what happens outside of this circle that you draw around yourself. But within that circle is is a space that you get to decide how you're going to respond to anything that's happening around you. And that response really determines your character. So, yeah, I spend time with myself, and I've spent time honoring the things that I've come through and I've developed over the years. And that was these are big blows, this news, it can really set you back. And if you're not, I guess, prepared for life and whatever is going to happen, nobody can be prepared for everything, but you can sit with yourself and, recognize what you're going through and give it space and give it, honor that. So I do that as a practice now. It's not so much like something I was born with. I learned how to take what I have and kind of care for it instead of reacting.
That's incredible. I've learned from multiple people now. That's something that I've learned, and one reason why I started the podcast was, one, I wanted people to learn, but two, selfishly, it gives me an opportunity to learn from so many great people, and that's something that I think might be underrated in our society, especially with things like social media, where something bad can happen to you, and you might go out there. That might be the new venting process. Whereas it's important just to sometimes not for too long, because being alone with yourself with bad thoughts for too long can be negative, as we know, but also to let those emotions out and sort of, something bad happens to you, wear those out, get them out, and then collect yourself and say, okay, great, I got those out. What's next? Where am I now? Where are my feet? Okay, we've got to do this, 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 and this. Got to get ready for surgery. Got to go on my trip first. Got to, whatever it might be. If you lock in on those emotions too long, or you don't do anything to take care of them, and you let them linger in the back of your mind, it can interrupt where you are in the present. I think that's where sometimes it can be dangerous.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So there's a balance there that you have to really, walk that line and decide when it's time. I am a firm believer in self-exploration. And are you familiar with Carl Jung at all?
I am.
Okay, great. So he has this, I'm really bad at quoting people, but I'm going to paraphrase something that he taught and said, which was, the doctor himself has to be familiar with, the dark side of life in order to be able to offer any type of space for healing for someone else. And so I've kind of always considered myself like a wounded warrior. And I've never been afraid of the dark things in life, and probably spent way more time than I needed to, like listening to emo music when I was younger, and, just letting my emotions kind of overwhelm me. But getting back to what you said, like you have to learn to, put things in perspective, and also, allow yourself to come out of those things and get the resources that you need to enjoy your life and to have joy in your heart. And then, what you mentioned something about social media. I just want to say one more thing about my faith in this journey, which was something that was very interesting to me. Again, I think I believe in God. God's talking to me all the time and teaching me things every day, whatever happens in my day. So right before I got this diagnosis on August 1st, I lost access to my social media account. So, I'm like Gen Z, or not Gen Z, I'm Gen X. What am I thinking? My kids are Gen Z. I'm a Gen Xer, and my kids always call me a boomer because I just use Facebook still. Like, that's my biggest one. I use, LinkedIn or whatever, but nothing else really big. And I lost access to my Facebook account, which I'd had for like 18 years, and all these people from around the world that I've met, because somebody had hacked in, and they just shut me out. And so it was right on top of all of this happening to me. And I didn't really have any way of like communicating to my community online, that this was happening. Whereas the first time during the pandemic, I had like a Facebook group that was like, I called it Beauty in the Breast. And, I had, I've kind of journeyed through my diagnosis during the pandemic, so I could have like some contact with the world. So I had no social media this time through, just totally cut off from it. And I took that as another sign from God. I tried like 12 days to get back into my account. And finally, when I got that diagnosis on the 12th of August, I was like, forget this. I need to focus on, my body. So for the last 2.5 months, I did not have any social media. And what that taught me as well going through this was, I think that would have been distracting from my healing to have it. What ended up happening was I just called on my real true inner circle of friends, like real people in my neighborhood, people that are here in town where I live, people at my church. And that was all that I needed, and the world just kept going, and none the wiser for what was happening to me. And it was very comforting, honestly, to have not to have that pressure of like, oh my gosh, day to day, what's happening with your body, your surgery. And it was just those few people that are, truly in my life that knew that I was going through these past few months. So that was really cool.
I agree. So I recently, I love Twitter because it's a lot of fun, especially if you're into sports and other topics, right? I recently deleted Twitter off my phone, so now I can only get it on my computer, which I don't get on my computer every single day unless for work. But so I found myself just not getting on Twitter alone, and I stopped hearing, because that's a lot of times where you get the news. Things happen, things trend, right? Stopped hearing news, stopped hearing updates, stopped hearing about things going on in the world that don't really affect me. But when I saw them either on the news, I also stopped really just watching news, all these things that didn't directly connect me. Even though they didn't, they would make me nervous. They would make me anxious. They'd make me scared and make me feel all these bad feelings. Deleted all that. It's like a weight lifted off my shoulders completely. So that's something I am a true believer. And now I really only get on to see what's going on during a Notre Dame football game, what reporters and people are tweeting. And that's
the important
anxiety for me. That's enough things. Like, I always say, like, I'm going to do my best to not let things impact me unless they're 18 and 19-year-olds and they're wearing golden helmets and they're playing on Saturdays. Those are the only things that I can't control that really are going to affect me. But
that's great. We need our passions and the things that, are truly near and dear to our heart. But yeah, I totally agree. I wasn't even on the news. I didn't look at any. I think I spent like in the last 2.5 months, maybe looking at the news a total of 3 hours. And I just put it, in my head, like, that stuff's going to happen and it will happen whether or not I'm paying attention. So it's fine if I just check out for a while. And I'm recommending to all of my friends to take a diet from everything that's going on, all of those, triggers that you have, because it spikes your cortisol level in your body. And it's no good. So I
It's
mean,
freeing.
yeah,
It's
for sure.
very much freeing because then you can just focus on yourself and your relationships with other people and things that you're passionate about, things
Yeah.
that you can control. Maybe you can learn or pick up a passion if you have tons of free time. So,
Yeah. I just realized something talking to you tonight, which is again kind of like this is how my brain works with my thinking about God, but I always feel like he's doing stuff in the world, to help heal me. But like the first time I had this, like I was in the pandemic, so like the world wasn't distracting me. And the second time is like I lost my social media, so the world wasn't distracting me again. And I would just recommend to anybody going through a cancer diagnosis to reduce as much of the stresses in your life as possible and keep it going, even after you're in the clear, even after you hit your 5-year mark, your 10-year mark. If we can reduce a lot of the stresses in our lives that are unnecessarily bothering us every day, you just enjoy your time here on earth a whole lot more.
mhm.
Take time to be grateful, wake up every morning and think about all the things that you do have. And, I start with like, thank you for my pillow. Thank you for my bed. Thank you for my shower, just little things. And it starts your whole day off in a really, great way.
I think, and I see this one commonality between people who like there are a lot of people out there who have a thirst for self-discovery
Hmm.
and betterment of their mental health, of their life, of their journey. And I think it all starts with intentionality. What
Hmm.
do you think about that?
Yes, 100%. So, one of my current teachers is a man named John C. Maxwell, and he teaches. I don't know if I have my book right here. Uh, he's got this book called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, and in that he talks about one of the laws is the law of intentionality. And that means you got to be intentional about your personal growth. You can't just let it happen. When you're a kid, yeah, you grow, automatically from an infant to a 5-year-old to a teenager to an adult. And that's, the growth that happens on its own. But your own personal character, your values, and your learning and everything, that most people just leave it to chance to happen. And John teaches like if you really want to grow, you have to be intentional about it. You got to make a plan for your growth. Do you have a plan for your personal growth? He asks everybody like the first time he meets them. And I'm taking on these same, values as well, and hoping to teach people that, you got to be intentional about what you want in your life, and make a plan for yourself every day. Make a year, a plan for a year, and take some time with yourself and your plan to go over it each year. Did I meet where I'm at? Did anything change? What do I, and you do this for yourself. It's an investment. And
Mhm.
yeah, 100% intentionality is, I would say, like probably the top driver of personal growth. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, because there are a lot of different theories on it and different, I guess, different ways to skin the cat, or for lack of better words. But I think all the theories, all the ways of life, all of the patterns that people follow or tactics they use to get themselves in a better mindset all starts with intentionality. I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned as of recently that I see in other people who are interested in being a better person every day. So what you said, and when you wake up, be thankful. Do one thing that shows or displays that you are thankful for the position that you are in, and you know that you're privileged to be in that position. Like you and I, we've gone through a lot of terrible things, Yet, if you make the effort every morning to wake up and thank God, or thank a person, send a text out saying thank you for being a good friend every morning. I've seen people do that. There are different ways to do this, but starting with the intentionality and then waking up in the morning and starting your day with thankfulness. I believe there's something to it,
Yeah.
and exciting learning about it so far. And I'm just now sort of learning about this.
Well, you got your whole life, and me too. I'm still learning. But it's something about, yeah, if you put your mind to that and you start your day that way and you're intentional about gratitude, you can't help but like everything else follows that. You I spent so many years with that negative self-talk in my head. Um, it kind of carves valleys, that are just easy to go down now in my neural pathways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been intentional to learn to stop doing that, to allow, grace for myself, to carve new, what I call neural pathways in your brain. It's like taking a machete and cutting through the forest, and like I got to carve a new pathway because these old pathways are just not serving me. And so waking up with gratitude, intentionally building a plan for yourself to, read every day, write something, tell somebody you love them, how much, value they bring to your life, whatever that is. That's that machete going through and like carving new pathways into your brain. And things follow from that. You just give off maybe a different attitude. People can feel it. We're so much more than what we can see, in the 3D world. There's just like, there's even like, the hormones and pheromones that come off of our bodies. They're sending signals that we're not fully aware of all the time. So I do think there's something to it, and I don't think I'm gonna have wasted my time if I spend the rest of my life practicing this.
No, it is. I think it is. There are a few things worth practicing and learning for an entire lifetime, because life is short and we're so small in the lifespan of Earth. And then when you put Earth on the lifespan of the universe, it's tiny,
Yeah.
right? So I do believe that there's power. You mentioned earlier that you were learning from somebody who wrote a book. So are you taking classes?
Oh, John Maxwell.
Yes.
So, yes, and yes, and even more so. So he's been around. He's probably the world's top like leadership speaker, public speaker, writer. He's written over 100 books or so on leadership, and he's been doing it for 50 years. He started his career as a pastor, and he was developing leaders in his church. And it just turned out, like 50 years ago, that he wrote a book and it gained more popularity in the secular world than it did in the Christian world.
Mm-hmm.
And so he felt like that was his calling. And so for the last 50 years, he's been writing books about leadership. And his number one model is Jesus, like as the prime leader. So he's got like, he's got a following all over the world. And I was working out at NASA doing the leadership development. And as I was another, gift from God, I had an opportunity to do that. And while there, I had known about John Maxwell before, but one of my colleagues had been working with him for about 25 years. And he rubbed off on me and influenced me to look into this a little deeper. So that trip that I took in right before my surgery, I told you about in Orlando, that was to go down to the John Maxwell. It's called the IMC. It's like International Maxwell Conference. And people gather from all over the world, and they come and they learn about, leadership and how to personal development, leadership development, and a lot of these things. And it's really open for anybody, any belief. You don't have to have any type of belief. It's really just basic principles of leadership that we've picked up through the values of, great leaders in our time, people who have added value back to others.
Yeah.
So that's John Maxwell. Yeah. I mean, and I'm teaching a class on his this book right here. It's probably backwards in the video, but it's called Developing the Leader Within You. It's one of his, he wrote this one in the 90s, and it's just really great, kind of principles to carry with you through life. So that's like, it's something I love to give back to the community. So.
And your work is teaching leadership to organizations?
Yeah, organizations and individuals. Right now, I'm doing this as like a master class for anybody in the community who wants to join. And I also go into organizations and customize. I'll listen to what they have going on. Maybe they have a new leader coming into their company, a new supervisor, or they have a team that's working on a project, and either something in the team shifts, they hire somebody new and the whole dynamics change, or the project scope changes, and people tend to have reactions to that. So I can come in and help with those things, doing those personality assessments I talked about, and then facilitating a workshop and ongoing training for people. So it's just a dream job. It's a job that I've, wanted to do my whole life, and been doing it for, the last several years now. And yeah, just grateful for it. It's the work that's dearest to my heart.
That's incredible. That sounds awesome. What'd you do for NASA?
Yeah, that was, it's called organizational development. So I was an organizational development specialist there. And NASA is a huge organization. So they have here in Huntsville, Marshall Space Flight Center has about 7,000 total employees, different teams, all sorts of functions. So it really, we were just there as me and my partner. We were the two people there to serve the 7,000. Whatever needs came up in a team, they would call us up, and it could be supervisor training we needed to do. It could be a reorganization. They needed to, kind of shift gears if a project went away. So it was almost anything. We did, a whole department. For example, like their marketing department is spread out over 10 different NASA centers in the US. And so once a year, they all get together, and it's 80 people in a room. And so they want to do something fun together to learn about each other. So we would do a workshop for them, doing DISC, if you know DISC, personality assessment. They like to do that a lot out at NASA. We would do Myers-Briggs, and and then have conversations and have activities around that. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, I was doing that with them, and then I recently launched into my own business, which is how your father and I got talking again, because we, as an HR person, our paths have crossed over the years with different companies I've worked with, and them having insurance needs, and he and I are friends on Facebook, so we kind of can see a little bit more of each other's heart and each other's lives. And he's doing his art right now, which is really, I'm more of an art person. My partner at NASA was more of the athlete, and so we would come into a class teaching people, facilitating people, and he would be like the coach, and big, and bringing like these plush balls that they would play with, and I'd be more like the art teacher, like, okay, we're gonna talk about our feelings, So it was fun. It was really fun dynamics. Yeah.
So before we leave, I am interested because one, I love that you read a lot, and two, I can tell just from our short conversation that one, I respect your story, and I can see that you are wise and you have a lot of wisdom to offer. So this podcast, the reason I started is the Cancers podcast. It's not just about cancer. It's about the metaphorical sense of cancer, the things that come up in our lives that are hurdles that we think, man, I don't know if I can get through this. Whatever challenges, they're different for different people. And it's not a comparison game of all these different challenges. All challenges for everyone's different circumstances are difficult. What would be some of your advice, whether it's something you've learned, uh, a quote, or someone you've read, or coming from your own journey that you would give somebody to be able to turn those cancers, as I say, it's kind of cheesy, but cancers into answers
Oh,
and,
I love it.
and help get through these hard moments in our life?
I would say the number one advice I have would be never give up on yourself. Every day there is, I also love to say there are infinite answers to any one problem. So I love that you turn the cancer into answers. Definitely. There are so many different ways of looking at any one problem in your life. And so if you find yourself stuck, if you're ruminating on something, if you feel like you can't move forward, just know that it's just a momentary situation and there will be a breakthrough. And if you need to have faith in any one thing, just have faith in yourself. Have faith in the life that is in you and the energy. And there's a little spark that's in all of us that drives us forward. So never give up on finding an answer to whatever situation you are stuck with. Mm-hmm.
Incredible. I have a feeling that we'll probably have another recording, maybe on a specific topic, because I feel like there's so many different avenues to go down, and there's so
Yeah.
many interesting things that can help you in life. So thank
Yeah.
you, Anastasia, for
Yeah.
joining the show
Sean.
again.
Yeah, it was so great to meet you. I'm so, really grateful for this relationship with you, that we're just sparking and just getting to know each other. So I adore you, from what your dad told me about your journey. It's just like you are such a strong person and the kind of people that I want, surrounded in my life. So I definitely would be happy to talk to you anytime. Thank you
Awesome.
so much for tonight.
Thank you. Everyone out there listening, don't forget, earn the moment in everything you do. Thank you, Anastasia.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.